Ladies and gentlemen, the Alabama Senate will now come to order. Our prayer today will be delivered by Senator Andrew Jones. Senator Jones.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and thank you for the Alabama Senate. Lord, we thank you for this legislative session as we enter into the home stretch. Lord, we pray that you'll be with us in our deliberations, that the words of our mouths and meditations of our heart will be acceptable in your sight, Lord. Pray that you'll just bless this body, bless its deliberations, each family represented here, and the business that we do for the people of Alabama. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Senator Jones. Today, the pledge will be led by Senate Page Molly Bohannon. Molly is paging for Senator Stewart. Thank you, Molly. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Allen, Mr. Barfoot, Mr. Beasley, Mr. Bell, Mr. Butler, Mr. Carnley, Mr. Chambliss, Mr. Chasteen, Ms. Coleman, Ms. Coleman Madison, Mr. Elliott, Ms. Figures, Mr. Gavan, Mr. Gudger, Mr. Hatcher, Mr. Hovey, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Livingston, Mr. Milson, Mr. Orr, Mr. Price, Mr. Reed, Mr. Roberts, Mr. Schofield, Mr. Sessions, Mr. Shelnut, Mr. Singleton, Mr. Smitherman, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Stutz, Mr. Wagner, Ms. Weaver, Mr. Williams,
Ladies and gentlemen, we have 26 senators present, which is a quorum. The Senate's ready to transact business.
Mr. President.
Senator Wagner.
Move that we excuse absent senators.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. President.
Senator Wagner.
Move that we dispense with the reading of journal from the previous legislative day and that we adopt said journal.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. Now move on to introduction of bills. Senator Jones.
Mr. President, move that we allow for the introduction of bills at any point throughout the day.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. Now move on to committee reports. Or I'm sorry, Senator Gutt, do you have something?
I would like to make a motion to make committee reports throughout the day.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. I'd like to recognize some special guests of the gallery while we got Senator Gudger up there. They're the guests of Senator Gudger. When I call your name, if you could please stand. Nathan Anderson, who is the director of the Parks and Rec at the city of Coleman, and his son, Graham Anderson. If y'all could please stand. Welcome to Alabama Senate. Nathan, do a great job with your facilities there. Enjoyed watching my boys play ball there. So, all right, now move on to committee reports. Secretary, call the first committee.
From the Committee on Finance and Taxation, General Fund, House Bill number 320 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 15 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, could I have a title read?
Secretary, read the title.
Relating to sheriffs to amend Act 2022-133, 2022 regular session, now appearing as Section 4123.9 Code of Alabama, to change the name of the local government pistol permit revenue loss fund, to increase the money appropriated to the fund, to increase the lifespan of the fund, to further provide for expenditures from the fund, to further provide for the deposit and allocation of grant reimbursement monies, to make non-substantive technical revisions to update existing code language to current style. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation, General Fund, House Bill number 72 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 14 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
Request for the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
House Bill 72 relating to pardons and paroles to amend Section 152232 as last corrected by Act 2022-371. The Codification Act, 2022 regular session, and Sections 152251 and 152253 Code of Alabama 75 to prevent a parolee in custody from being released to parole supervision in certain circumstances, to provide that a specialist, in addition to a parole officer, may conduct an investigation and provide a report to the court regarding a defendant, and to make non-substantive technical revisions to update the existing code language to current style. From Finance and Taxation General Fund, House Bill number 87 receives a favorable report by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
House Bill number 87 relating to public officers and employees to amend Section 36217 Code of Alabama 1975 to increase the time period during which the state or a political subdivision of the state must be reimbursed for the training of new law enforcement officer, certified corrections officer, fire protection personnel, or firefighter, to include custom-fitted uniform items in the required reimbursement, and to make non-substantive technical revisions to update the existing code language to current style. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund, House Bill number 220 receives a favorable report by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund, House Bill number 465 receives a favorable report by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund, House Bill number 126 receives a favorable report by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund, House Bill number 127 receives a favorable report by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund, House Bill number 154 receives a favorable report by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund, House Bill number 155 receives a favorable report by a vote of 15 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund, House Bill number 125 receives a favorable report by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays. From Finance and Taxation General Fund, House Bill number 124 receives a favorable report with substitute by a vote of 15 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund, Senate Bill number 232 receives a favorable report with amendment and with substitute by a vote of 14 ayes and 2 nays.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
request for the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Senate Bill number 232 relating to motor vehicles, establishing the Peer-to-Peer Car Sharing Program Act to provide for the operation of peer-to-peer car sharing programs in the state, and to amend Section 4012-222 Code of Alabama 1975 to exclude lessors of peer-to-peer car sharing vehicles from liability for certain taxes on the proceeds of vehicle renting and leasing.
These bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill 322 receives a favorable report with substitute by a vote of 10 ayes and 1 nay. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill 329 receives a favorable report with substitute by a vote of 10 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President,
Senator
may
Smithman.
I have the title read?
Sure. Secretary, read the title.
relating to judges and justices to prohibit government agencies, individuals, businesses, and associations from publicly posting or displaying judges or justices' personally identifiable information on the internet, provided they have received a written request from the judge or justice to refrain from doing so, to prohibit commercial data collectors from knowingly selling, trading, licensing, transferring, or purchasing judges' personally identifiable information, to provide for a process for a judge or justice to request their personal information not be made public, to provide for penalties for violations, and in connection therewith would have as its purpose or effect the requirement of a new or increased expenditure of local funds within the meaning of Section 111.05 of the Constitution of Alabama, 2022. From the Judiciary Committee, House Bill number 319 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 8 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 abstention.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
I request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
House Bill 319 relating to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board to amend sections 2811.2, 2811.3, 2811.5, 2811.6.1, 2811.6.2, 2811.7, 2811.9, 2811.10, 2811.12, 2811.13, 2811.14, 2811.16, 2811.17.1, 2811.18, 2811.19, Code of Alabama 1975, to revise the definition of electronic nicotine delivery system to include delivery of substances other than tobacco, to further provide for the sale of tobacco and other related products to minors, to prohibit the distribution of tobacco, tobacco products, electronic nicotine
Every time I
delivery systems, e-liquids, and alternate
read to another.
nicotine products through a vending machine, to provide license fees for the retail sale of certain tobacco products, to further provide for the authorized penalties for certain violations, to establish the Tobacco Licensing and Compliance Fund in the State Treasury and provide for its administration, to further provide for the membership of the Advisory Board to the Alcoholic Beverages Control Board, to further provide for the requirement of tobacco retailers to post signage warning of the dangers of tobacco product use, to require the board to adopt rules, to require the State Board of Education to establish a model vaping awareness, education, and prevention program, and require each local board of education to adopt a policy based on the model policy, to repeal Section 2811.15, Code of Alabama 1975, and in connection therewith would have as its purpose or effect the requirement of a new or increased expenditure of local funds within the meaning of Section 111.05 of the Constitution of Alabama, 2022. From the Judiciary Committee, House Bill number 348 receives a favorable report by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
request the title be read, please.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to the Uniform Commercial Code, to add Article 12, the Uniform Commercial Code, to govern the property rights of certain intangible digital assets, including electronic rights to payment, to provide for a manner to establish the transfer and control of those assets, to provide a mechanism for evidencing certain rights of payment, and to adopt special rules with regard to the payment obligations and conditions of discharge of account debtors on controllable accounts and controllable payment intangibles. To amend sections 71201, 71204, 71301, 71306, 72102, 72106, 72201, 72202, 72203, 72205, 72209, 728-102, 728-103, 728-107, 728-201, 728-202, 728-203, 728-205, 728-208, 73104, 73401, 73604, 748-103, 748-201, 748-202, 748-203, 74A208, 74A210, 74A211, 74A305, 75104, 75116, 77102, 77106, 78102, 78103, 78106, 78110, 78303, 798-102, 798-105, 798-203, 798-204, 798-208, 798-209, 798-210, 798-301, 798-304, 798-305, 798-310, 798-312, 798-314, 798-316, 798-317, 798-323, 798-324, 798-331, 798-332, 798-341, 798-404, 798-406, 798-408, 798-509, 798-513, 798-605, 798-608, 798-611, 798-614, 798-615, 798-619, 798-620, 798-621, 798-624, Code of Alabama 1975, to add sections 79107A, 107B, 306A, 306B, 798-314A, and 798-326A to the Code of Alabama 1975 to provide a substantial revision to the Uniform Commercial Code in conformity with a substantial portion of the Uniform Commercial Code Amendments 2022, to clarify the meaning of the term chattel paper and other definitions, to define and provide for hybrid transactions, and to provide extensive amendments to the Uniform Commercial Code, providing for the perfection of security interest in controllable electronic records, documents of title, chattel paper, and other assets, and to add Article 12A to the Uniform Commercial Code to provide transitional provisions for the Universal Commercial Code amendments. From the Judiciary Committee, House Bill 229 receives a favorable report by a vote of 8 ayes and 2 nays. From the Judiciary Committee, House Bill number 358 receives a favorable report by a vote of 9 ayes and 0 nays. From the Judiciary Committee, House Bill 392 receives a favorable report with substitute by a vote of 6 ayes and 4 nays.
These bills received a second reading to be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry, House Bill number 189 receives a favorable report by a vote of 12 ayes and 0 nays.
This bill's received a second reading to be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on Education Policy, House Bill number 363 receives a favorable report by a vote of 6 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Education Policy, House Bill number 342 receives a favorable report by a vote of 8 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Education Policy, House Bill number 430 receives a favorable report by a vote of 8 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Education Policy, House Bill number 43 receives a favorable report by a vote of 7 ayes and 1 nay.
These bills received a second reading to be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on Health Care, House Bill number 417 receives a favorable report by a vote of 10 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Health Care, House Bill number 285 receives a favorable report by a vote of 10 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills received a second reading to be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on Tourism, Senate Bill number 324 receives a favorable report by a vote of 12 ayes and 0 nays.
This bill's received a second reading to be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on Veterans and Military Affairs, House Bill number 286 receives a favorable report by a vote of 8 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Safety, Senate Bill number 339 receives a favorable report by a vote of 8 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Safety, House Bill number 432 receives a favorable report by a vote of 8 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Safety, House Bill number 450 receives a favorable report by a vote of 8 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary called next committee.
From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 143 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, Senate Bill number 346 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 341 receives a favorable report. From Local Legislation, House Bill number 414 receives a favorable report. From Local Legislation, House Bill number 415 receives a favorable report.
Mr. President.
All right, these bills received a second reading, and was that it? You said? All right, and this concludes committee reports. All right, Senator Smithman.
No, I'm okay.
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 All right, we finished the gamut of committee reports. Now moving on to motions and resolutions. All right, any motions or resolutions? Senator Stewart.
I would like to offer a resolution of SJR.
All right, Secretary Reed, receive the SJR, please.
Voting no.
Hey.
'84, you said? Senate Joint Resolution number 84 by Senator Stewart celebrating the life and legacy of the Honorable George Patrick Evans.
Mr. President,
Senator Stewart.
I move that all senators be added as co-sponsors.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. All right, Senator Stewart. Senator Stewart, need you to move for adoption.
Move for adoption.
All right, any objection? All those in favor say aye. All right, any opposed? All right, resolution's adopted. Thanks, Senator Stewart.
Thank you.
All right, Senator Gudger.
Mr. President, I have an SJR I'd like to submit.
All right, Secretary Reed, receive the SJR.
What'd you say?
Senate Joint Resolution number 85 by Senator Gudger declaring Coleman County Strawberry Festival as the Alabama State Strawberry Festival.
All right, Senator Gudger.
I'd like to make a motion, please, to pass this SJR using previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Resolution's adopted. Thanks, Senator Gudger.
Thank you so much.
All right, Senator Wagner.
Mr. President, I have a resolution from Rules.
All right, Secretary Reed, receive the resolution from Rules, please.
From the Committee on Rules, House Joint Resolution number 204, creating the Oversight Commission on Alabama Opioid Settlement Funds, receives a favorable report.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move adoption of the resolution.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution's adopted.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
I have 3 resolutions from Rules.
All right, Secretary Reed, receive the resolutions from Rules.
From the Committee on Rules, House Joint Resolution number 191, commending Jeffrey Norris, Teacher of the Year. Also, House Joint Resolution number 198, commending Chandler Hayes Stevenson. Also, House Joint Resolution number 207, commending 2023 Paracycling World Cup in Huntsville.
Mr. President,
Receives a favorable report.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move adoption of the 3 resolutions from Rules.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution's adopted. All right, any other motions or resolutions? All right, we've ran the gamut on motions and resolutions. Now move on to local bills. All right, Secretary, call the first local bill.
On page 48 of the calendar, Senate Bill 334 by Senator Albritton, relating to the city of Atmore in Escambia County, BR pending.
Mr. President,
Senator Albritton.
move for passage of the VIR. Do we have a good roll?
I do not.
Well, let's long roll.
All right, Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton,
Aye.
Mr. Allen, Mr. Barfoot, Mr. Beasley, Mr. Bell, Mr. Butler, Mr. Carnley, Mr. Chambliss, Mr. Chastain, Ms. Coleman, Ms. Coleman Madison, Mr. Elliott, Ms. Figures, Mr. Gavan, Mr. Gudger, Mr. Hatcher, Mr. Hovey, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Livingston, Mr. Melson, Mr. Orr, Mr. Price, Mr. Reed, Mr. Roberts, Mr. Schofield, Mr. Sessions, Mr. Shelnut, Mr. Singleton, Mr. Smitherman, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Stutz, Mr. Wagner, Ms. Weaver, Mr. Williams,
Thirty ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
Mr. President.
Hold on one second. Let them call the bill real quick.
On page 48 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 334 by Senator Albritton, relating to the city of Atmore in Escambia County.
Senator Albritton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move for final passage using previous roll, without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 334 passes. Secretary, call the next local bill.
on page 48 of the calendar, House Bill number 305 by Representative Bolton, relating to Pickens County, BR pending.
Mr. President,
Senator Chambliss.
move the BR using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
on page 48 of the calendar, House Bill number 305 by Representative Bolton, relating to Pickens County.
Mr. President,
Senator Chambliss.
I move final passage using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 305 passes. Secretary, call the next local bill.
on page 49 of the calendar, House Bill number 322 by Representative Morris, relating to Montgomery County, BR pending.
Senator Chambliss.
I move the BR using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
on page 49 of the calendar, House Bill number 322 by Representative Morris, relating to Montgomery County.
Senator Chambliss.
Mr. President, I move final passage using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 322 passes. Secretary, call next local bill.
on page 49 of the calendar, House Bill 313 by Representative Ingram relating to Montgomery County, BR pending.
Mr. President, I move the BR using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
on page 49 of the calendar, House Bill number 313 by Representative Ingram relating to Montgomery County.
Mr. President, I move final passage using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 313 passes. Secretary, call next local bill.
on page 49 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 274 by Senator Figures relating to Baldwin County, BR pending.
Mr. President, I move the BR using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
on page 49 of the calendar, House Bill or Senate Bill number 274 by Senator Figures relating to Baldwin County.
Mr. President, I move final passage using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 274 passes. Secretary, call next local bill.
on page 49 of the calendar, House Bill number 469 by Representative Harbison, a proposed constitutional amendment relating to Coleman County.
Senator Chambliss.
Mr. President, I move final passage using previous roll.
All right, any objection? I'm sorry, yeah, BR.
I'm sorry, I move BR using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
on page 49 of the calendar, House Bill 469 by Representative Harbison, proposed constitutional amendment relating to Coleman County.
Senator Chambliss.
Mr. President, I move final passage using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 469 passes.
Mr. President, I move certification using previous roll.
Okay, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. The certification resolution's adopted. Secretary, call next local bill.
on page 49 of the calendar, House Bill number 481 by Representative Harbison relating to Coleman County, BR pending.
Mr. President, I move the BR using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Are you objecting? All right, hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
28 ayes, 0 nays, 2 abstentions. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
on page 49 of the calendar, House Bill number 481 by Representative Harbison relating to Coleman County.
Senator Chambliss.
Mr. President, I move final passage using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
28 ayes, 0 nays, 2 abstentions. House Bill 481 passes. Secretary, call next local bill.
on page 50 of the calendar, House Bill number 468 by Representative Harbison relating to Coleman County, BR pending.
Mr. President, I move BR using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 50 of the calendar, House Bill number 468 by Representative Harbison relating to Coleman County.
Senator Chambliss.
Mr. President, I move final passage using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 468 passes. Secretary, call next local bill.
on page 50 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 331 by Senator Smitherman relating to Jefferson County, BR pending.
Mr. President,
Senator Smitherman.
I ask you now to consent to use previous role on adoption of BIR.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the roll. I'm sorry, call the bill. My bad.
on page 50 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 331 by Senator Smitherman relating to Jefferson County.
Mr. President,
Senator Smitherman.
no question. I ask you now to consent to use previous role for adoption local bill.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
All right, 30 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 331 passes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. And this concludes local bills. All right, Senator Wagner.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
have a report from Committee on Rules.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the report from the Committee on Rules.
Senate Resolution number 86 from the Committee on Rules, Special Order Calendar. Be it resolved by the Senate that the following bills and the order name shall be the special, paramount, and continuing order of business, taking precedence over all other matters until disposed of for the 25th legislative day only. On page 35, Senate Bill 301 by Senator Wagner relating to motor vehicles. On page 9, Senate Bill 143 by Senator Barfoot relating to crimes and offenses. On page 13, Senate Bill 145 by Senator Livingston relating to the Volunteer Rescue Squad Tuition Reimbursement Act. On page 36, Senate Bill 245 by Senator Gavan relating to the Alabama Business and Nonprofit Entity Code. On page 42, Senate Bill 330 by Senator Roberts relating to currency. On page 32, Senate Bill 312 by Senator Chambliss relating to liability insurance. On page 36, Senate Bill 106 by Senator Coleman Madison relating to municipal courts. On page 11, Senate Bill number 97 by Senator Gavan regarding paroles. On page 29, Senate Bill 291 by Senator Coleman regarding public contracts. On page 37, Senate Bill 320 by Senator Bell relating to criminal procedure. On page 26, Senate Bill 284 by Senator Chambliss relating to public safety. On page 40, Senate Bill 294 by Senator Stewart relating to state employees. On page 37, Senate Bill 316 by Senator Figures relating to tobacco products. On page 15, Senate Bill 213 by Senator Sessions regarding the Alabama Bail Reform Act of 1993. On page 40, Senate Bill 313 by Senator Butler relating to the Department of Economic and Community Affairs. On page 44, Senate Bill 315 by Senator Roberts regarding public utilities. On page 27, House Bill 364 by Representative Robbins relating to education. On page 7, House Bill 109 by Representative Collins regarding the Alabama Credential Quality and Transparency Act. On page 40, House Bill 421 by Representative Ingram relating to state symbols. On page 41, House Bill 455 by Representative Standridge relating to the Forestry Commission. On page 25, House Bill 75 by Representative Mooney relating to the Alabama Private Investigation Board. On page 39, House Bill number 11 by Representative Sells relating to the Electronic Security Board of Licensure. On page 30, House Bill 336 by Representative Hollis relating to the Red Mountain Greenway and Recreational Area Commission. On page 44, House Bill 378, relating to the Brownsfield Cleanup Program. On page 23, House Bill 244 by Representative Crawford, relating to Guardians Ad Litem. On page 45, House Bill 356 by Representative Halsey, relating to law enforcement training. On page 47, House Bill 344 by Representative Treadaway, relating to counties of 400,000 or more.
All right, Senator Wagner.
Mr. President, members, this is a bill pertaining to,
We need to adopt the calendar first.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Mr. President, move adoption of the special order calendar from rules
All right, would you like to use previous rule?
using previous rule.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
Thirty ayes, 0 nays. The special order calendar is adopted. Secretary, call the first bill.
On page 35 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 301 by Senator Wagner, relating to motor vehicles, BR pending.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move adoption of the BIR,
All right, would you like to use previous rule?
previous rule.
Okay, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 35 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 301 by Senator Wagner, relating to motor vehicles, committee amendments pending.
Senator Wagner.
Mr. President, members, I'm beginning my fourth term as chairman of the Rules Committee. And this is the first time during that extended period that I've ever asked for a bill of mine to be first on the calendar. This bill is very important to me. It's an emotional issue. It's tough to talk about. I talked about it at the Judiciary Committee the other day, and it's pretty emotional, and I'll explain it to you in a few minutes. I was involved in the seatbelt issue early in the 90s. The first seatbelt bill was introduced in, I think, 1991. The seatbelt bill passed in 1999. It took 8 years for us to pass a seatbelt bill. Yes, it was controversial, but how many lives have been saved since 1999? This bill is called the hands-free bill, the distracted bill. It's been introduced several times. I've been asked to introduce it several times over the last few years, but I've always said I can't do it because of an issue that happened in my family in 1979. And I'll go ahead and share that with you. 1979, my second son graduated from Vestavia High School. I bought him a Jeep for graduation. He loved it. Of course, that was before seat belts. That was before cell phones. But he loved his Jeep. He was going to Jacksonville State on a football scholarship, which he had earned. He was a running back at Vestavia High School, a very talented athlete. But he left home one night and didn't come home. We lost our second son, and that's the reason this has been a very emotional issue for me. And as I said, I've been asked several times to introduce this type of legislation, but this year I decided, yes, I will. It went to the Judiciary Committee, which Senator Barfoot chairs. Senator Gavan is a member. Came out of committee 10-1, which I was very pleased with. And on that day, for some reason, I wanted the committee members to see a picture of my son. Very emotional. But I held up pretty strong, okay? The bill came out of committee. I was really happy, really proud. Then Senator Barfoot and Senator Gavan came to me and they said, let's work on the bill a little bit. So yesterday, the three of us got together with Othny's office. Caleb, who's over here, helped us a lot. So we worked out a substitute, and I'm ready to pass this hands-free bill. It's been tried over and over. I spoke to the Republican House Caucus today at their lunch, probably for 15, 20 minutes. I told them basically what I'm telling you today. And of course, it's tough to talk about, and I'm sure everybody in here can understand that. But I'm serious about this bill, and I hope the members of the Senate will listen to Senator Gavan as he explains our substitute. He's the learned attorney on this issue, along with Senator Barfoot. And I hope you'll listen, and hopefully you'll take this issue seriously, like we finally did on seat belts. Finally, after 9 years, how many lives have we saved in this state in those 9 years, okay? 27 states have already passed some type of this legislation in one form or another. But basically, that's what this bill does. There is a substitute that Senator Gavan will offer that we have all agreed to, and I think it does what we need for it to do. And I think Senator Gavan will tell you that. And Senator Barfoot has been so helpful, and I want to thank both of them for standing by me on this issue. And with those comments, now you know why I'm interested in this, what it means to me and my family. And with that, I'm going to yield to Senator Gavan.
All right, Senator Gavan.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Wagner, I know this is an emotional issue for you and your family, and I thank you so much for working with us and talking about it and strengthening. You know, we work to strengthen this bill in many areas. There's some of the provisions were originally applied only to commercial drivers, and during our discussions, it was like, well, why shouldn't those apply to all drivers? And so we added that in. I guess at this time, I would like to just, as far as the formalities go, I would like to move that we table the committee amendment.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The committee amendment's tabled.
Oh, we got more? Okay.
All right, Senator Gavan.
Now move to table amendment number 2.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Committee amendment number 2 is tabled. All right, Senator Gavan.
And this time I would move to table amendment number 3.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Committee amendment number 3 is tabled. All right, Senator Gavan.
This time I'd like to offer the substitute.
All right, Secretary Reed, receive the substitute.
Substitute for Senate Bill 301 by Senator Gavan.
Oh, my goodness gracious. All right. Oh, this came from LSA, but, all right, here's one that is. No, it's not. No, I'm sorry. I need to get. No, all right, while we're waiting on that, it's a two-sided copy, so unfortunately, it has to be on one side. So one of the things that the bill did before is it dealt with distracted driving, just in general. And my problem with the way that that was worded was that, what is that? Is that, well, I'm reaching over to grab a French fry? Am I reaching to touch my radio? Talking to, arguing with somebody in the vehicle, something like that. And so we added the words that a person shall not engage in actions, quote, prohibited by law. And that would take it out of just, well, the policeman just thinks you're, distracted and going to pull you over for no reason. We're tying it to things that we say are going to be within those parameters. Another thing is that you would be prohibited from holding a standalone electronic device. An iPad would qualify for that. It'd be different from a wireless phone, okay? It could be any number of things. You're not going to be able to go make videos as you go down the road and, being silly on TikTok or something like that. That would be outlawed. So there'd be a number of things that we would outlaw that, but one difference, and this was something that bothered a lot of people, bothered me, in that, a lot of folks don't have Bluetooth capabilities. And this would, you're still not going to be able to go down the road and dial a number. You're not going to be able to go down the road and text. It's still illegal to text. But you would be able to punch one button. You would be able to send a text with Siri or whatever mechanism you have. You can push a button and give a audio text, but you cannot be using your hands going down the road to either dial a number or text. You can hit a one button to send a message, or not send a message, but to start a phone call, initiate a phone call, or end a phone call. But you are going to be able to hold the phone in your hand. So again, my issue with that is that sometimes the person on the other end of the call can't hear me. Sometimes I can't hear them on Bluetooth, and so I've got to take them off Bluetooth and hold the phone up to my head. But I've come much closer to having a wreck fooling with the radio than I ever have. I mean, I got something about the size of an iPad sitting in my truck up there, with a big screen, as opposed to talking on the telephone. So this has been a long time coming, Senator, and this is your bill, of course, started out the best I've seen in the 5 years that I've been here. It's something we need to address. It's important to a lot of our constituents. I know my city councilman was personally impacted by this, and has been a strong advocate for this for several years. So I'm glad we've reached this point where we have agreed upon resolution. And I'm sorry we have to wait for this sub to get photocopied where it's all on one side. I will bring up one of the things, and this was actually done because we incorporated all the amendments, of course, that were made in committee. We incorporated those in the body of the sub. And one of them, if y'all recall, Representative K.L. Brown worked on this for years. He was very passionate about this, and so this is to be cited as the Representative K.L. Brown Act, and is enacted in memory of Leah Grace Tarvin and Cece Lunsford and Jay Kendall, all people that have been victims to distracted driving. And so that was one of the changes that we had in there. This does have some exceptions for utility workers as they're going about doing their things. There was a concern about Uber drivers being able to make their swipe, and we took care of that. A number of issues on how things would be handled in terms of some minor exceptions that did not disturb the integrity of the bill in terms of how vehicles would be operated. We did, on line 131, we did deal with the convictions and violations of this. There is a point system in here that would be, would be stepped up as we go through increased violations. So it's a stepped up approach. We did put an exception in where there are no court costs assessed for the first violation. That actually was in the body of the bill that Senator Wagner initially filed. One of the amendments, I say amendments, one of the changes that we made was to put a clear exception. It should have been, I think presumed as obvious, but when the vehicle's parked on the shoulder of the road, highway or street, that it's still going to be allowed. You obviously can make phone calls in, touch things on your phone, send text. One thing that was in before was the exception for using GPS. That's always been in this bill, that we would be able to, or the drivers of Alabama roads would be able to use GPS navigational technology as they were going about the road without violating this. It would not have a problem using dash cams or backup cameras, which seemed again to be common sense, but people felt like it needed to be in the bill. It is allowed for law enforcement officers, emergency medical services personnel, ambulance operators, firefighters, volunteer firefighters, or similarly employed public safety first responders during the performance of his or her official duties. Also allows for interlock devices. Apparently, you've got to use your hands for interlock devices or other maybe DUI prevention devices that might be in the car. Where is it? I'm talking for my health. All right, I move adoption of the sub.
All right.
Using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Van substitute's adopted.
Move for final passage using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams,
30 ayes, 0 nays.
Y'all got to tell me.
Senate Bill 301, where you're just going on through a gamut of different things. I didn't know how long
Well,
you were
we
gonna
ran
go.
the gamut on that one. There's no shortage of that.
All right. Thank you, Senator Wagner.
Thank you, members. Thank you, thank you.
All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
on page 9 of the calendar, Senate Bill 143 by Senator Barfoot relating to crimes and offenses, BR pending.
All right, Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move for adoption of the BIR using previous role.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 9 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 143 by Senator Barfoot relating to crimes and offenses.
Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill, SB 143, is a criminal enterprise bill. My colleagues across the way and I over there, over the past several weeks, maybe more, we've kind of run the gamut of tweaking it, moving things. And quite honestly, I think that this is a way that, Mr. President, I can't hear, I'm sorry. Thank you. Want to give my colleagues across the way credit. Over the past couple of weeks in dealing with this bill, a lot of times we think of it as give and take, that you're giving up something in order to get something. And where there was some of that in this bill, quite honestly, there were several changes that I thought were great changes. You know, folks put an extra set of eyes on them. We ask questions. We have time to discuss things. We figure out the practical application of it. We figure out the impact. We figure out the unintended consequences. I think I've heard Senator Smitherman talk about the wings on the plane, maybe a couple times this session, right? And so I think we came to a landing point of where everybody is in a position that we think it's a much better bill. I'll be happy to answer any of those questions that my colleagues may have. In a nutshell, though, let me tell the body what this does. There's three main points of this bill. First of all, I want the body to keep in mind that you must, in order to any of these sections apply, you must be convicted beyond a reasonable doubt of an underlying criminal offense as exists in law now. So that's number one. The second thing that I want this body to keep in mind is that it addresses criminal enterprise. Those that would sought to do criminal deeds on behalf of not just themselves, but organizations or groups or entities that would benefit from those crimes. And so with that being said, there are basically three silos. That is what I will call an enhanced penalty, that if you are convicted of a felony offense, class C, A, B, or C, if you are convicted of that offense beyond a reasonable doubt, it's always important to note, and the jury believes that in addition to committing that offense, that you are a member of a criminal enterprise, and the bill lays out in specific details what the prosecutor would have to prove. And then thirdly, that crime that you committed and were found guilty of and proven to be a member of a criminal enterprise was done in the furtherance of that criminal enterprise, then there would be a step-up enhancement from, say, a C to a B, and so forth. The second thing that this bill does, with I think great clarity, and certainly with hopefully an impact to society and the public, is that if you are convicted of a felony offense, if you are convicted of that crime, and it runs the gamut, Mr. President, it does, but if you are convicted of that crime and you possess a firearm while you committed that crime, and you are found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of that crime, and have been found to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of possessing that firearm, there is a mandatory consecutive sentence. That goes up and it increases, as one might imagine. Simply having a firearm is one, brandishing it, which is defined further in law and other places, showing it, pulling it, is a heightened sentence, and then ultimately using that firearm, which could in fact be deadly, is an enhanced sentence on top of that. And then the third thing that it does is we have already in state law a mandatory transfer provision, and state law already lists certain crimes for which you can be transferred to an adult court as a juvenile, 16 years or older. This simply adds that, if there is a provision that is breached pursuant to this, again, beyond a reasonable doubt of an existing crime, and you have been found guilty of that with one of those enhancements, charged with that, then you could be sent to adult court to be adjudicated on the same conditions that I just previously described. So hope I've done an adequate job. Again, this bill runs the gamut. We've had an opportunity to sit and talk for several weeks, and I know my colleague, Senator Smitherman, has some questions or comments.
All right, Senator Smitherman.
Thank you. No, I don't have any questions at this moment. I think my colleague, Senator Singleton, may have some, but I just wanted to take this moment to tell you, first of all, I appreciate the work and effort that you put into it. You know, I'll say this, and this is not a negative, it's not a negative toward people that may not be, but it's a positive to the fact that it was you being an attorney. I think it made it a lot easier for us to get to this point and understanding what those legal terms and the impact that they would have. You've been a practicing attorney, and I think that was very, very beneficial to being able for us to move as we through this process. I will say this to you, and I want to say this. This is my main reason. One of my main reasons for standing up here, and I want to say this, is that I want to make sure, I want everybody to listen, because so many times we develop perceptions or thoughts, but I want to make sure that everybody in here understand that everybody on this side of the aisle care just as much about eliminating crime as everybody on this side of the aisle. I want you to understand that. We have little old ladies that want to sit on their porch in peace. We have communities that don't want to hear gunshot and gunfires as well. In our community, we don't want to be somewhere wherever it's happening with these groups, and one of my main motivators is that we are having too many innocent people getting shot and killed that have nothing even to do with what's going on in this world. And I think that it's important for us to make sure that we address that issue. And I think that you're right, being able for us to sit down and talk and walk through scenarios, be able to lay out on the table conditions that were not meant to happen, was not thought about to the point where we sat down and talked about those, and definitely was not addressed until they have been addressed here. So I just wanted to say that sitting here to tell you that no, we think that the idea that we are able to make sure that the streets and that our communities are safer, that we don't have to face this at the level that it may be taking place, and we continue to make sure that people who commit violent crimes, that we don't have to be exposed to those habits or those behaviors on any kind of basis, but especially on any kind of continuous basis. I think that the advantage of enhancement will show itself. I'll say this in conclusion. The senator from Tuscaloosa, and I'm not talking about the one that's over here, I'm talking about the one sitting right back there. He and I did something similar when it came to athletics in terms of enhancements. And he shared with me the results of it in a positive way. I think may have been Tuesday when we were talking about that. So they work, enhancements work, and I look forward to the day when we may not have to do this, but we are in a time now that we have to do what we can do down here to help the situation. We have to do what we can do to help law enforcement to have some tools to go and address these very serious and very dangerous issues that we're talking about now. So I just wanted to just say that to you. Thank you very much. And with that, Senator Singleton,
Let me say something, Senator Smitherman, along those lines to echo your comments. You're right. It's not a Republican, Democrat. It's not a young, old. It's not a black, white. When you have an elderly lady, to your point, sitting on the front porch, whose life is taken because of some random, meaningless act, when you have a child that's sitting in an apartment and mama's putting the child to bed and shots are fired and that child's life is cut short, we don't ask the question, nor should we. Republican, Democrat, black, white, young, old, because at that point, that person's life is gone.
That's right.
And I want to tell you, I appreciate when we first started having the conversations about this bill that you acknowledged, and as you are here today, that this is a plague on society. It is not just in Alabama, but we can do something about it in Alabama.
That's right.
And I appreciate you working with me on this.
Thank you, too.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and thanks, Senator Smithman.
And I want to say one last thing. I want
Okay.
to thank the majority leader because he was right in there with us. And I want to appreciate you, too, as well as our President Pro Tem, who coordinated all of us getting together so that we could sit down and talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Senator Smithman. Senator Singleton.
Mr. President,
Senator Singleton.
I came to fight today, but they took all the bite out the fight. It solved the problem. So I want to say to you, Senator Barfoot, I want to thank you for working through this process. The AG's office who started some of these conversations, I want to say thanks to them for coming to the table also to talk about this bill, because the direction we may have thought this bill was going, I know that that's what we didn't want to represent coming out of the state of Alabama. And you heard what we said, and you decided to sit down and put yourself in those positions and think about from your defense side sometimes and look at how you have to defend that client and how it's going to work. And we were just looking at real life things that could happen based on those things, and you were willing to accept a lot of the reasoning why we wanted to change language, being able to make prima facie cases instead of one identifier, make it 3 different identifiers, whether or not that's a gang or gang activity or any criminal activity that's going on. So I want to thank you for those insights that you were willing to sit there and share and adopt those changes and amendments to this bill. I think this became a better bill. Thank you very much.
I would agree with you. And let me also, since we're thanking folks, let me thank, I won't use her last name, but let's thank Ms. Amanda over there.
Yes. Yes.
Because she kept a steady pen and continued to write and take notes, and thank you.
Yep.
Wherever, she may not be in there now, but thank you. So
Well, she hear you. Well, I guess we're loved on each other enough.
Well, I need to adopt the amendment because I don't
Yeah.
think we want it passing like it is now. So
Yeah,
let me,
please. We're loved on
The
each other enough now.
All right, Secretary Reed, receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill 143 by Senator Barfoot. On page 1, lines 5, 8, and 13 and 18, delete gang, and in each instance insert. And in lieu thereof, the following criminal enterprise. On page 2, lines 45, 47, and 51, delete gang, and in each instance, insert in lieu thereof the following criminal enterprise. Replace line 63 on page 3 with the following. Replace line 65 on page 3 with the following. Replace line 71 on page 3 with the following. Replace lines 77 through 79 on page 3 with the following. Replace lines 82 through 104 on page 3 and 4 with the following. On page 5, lines 124, 126, 139, delete gang, and in each instance, insert in lieu thereof the following criminal enterprise. delete lines 134 through 135 on page 5. Replace lines 138 on page 5 with the following: carries a firearm during the commission of any criminal act intended to. Replace lines 153 through 157 on page 6 with the following:
All right, Senator Barfoot.
Mr. President, with that, I'd move for adoption of the amendment using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Barfoot amendment's adopted. Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. If there are no final questions, comments on it, I'd move for adoption as amended. SB 143 is adopted
All right, would you like to use previous roll?
using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. 32 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 143 passes amended. Thanks, Senator Barfoot. At this time, I'd like to recognize special guests in the gallery that was instrumental in this bill. Attorney General Steve Marshall, if you could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. Senator Barfoot.
Mr. President, I'd also ask for a moment of personal privilege and recognition for Captain Bo Russell of the Montgomery Police Department, who happens to be with us here today as well.
All right, you could please stand.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Barfoot. Secretary called next bill.
On page 13 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 145 by Senator Livingston, regarding the Volunteer Rescue Squad Tuition Reimbursement Act of 2018, BIR pending.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the BIR using previous roll. No objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 13 of the calendar, Senate Bill 145 by Senator Livingston, regarding the Volunteer Rescue Squad Tuition Reimbursement Act, committee substitute pending.
Mr. President, I move we adopt the substitute using previous roll. No objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The committee substitute's adopted.
Mr. President,
Senator Livingston.
President, I move to substitute HB 213 for SB 145. It's on the calendar.
All right, hold on.
HB 213. Let's carry it over first. Move to carry over Senate Bill 145.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, Senate Bill 145 is carried over.
And bring up HB 213.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. Secretary, bring up, what was it?
HB 213.
HB 213. All right, before you do that, I have a very special guest in the gallery, Mitzi Reed. Reed. Where's Mitzi? Yeah, if you could please stand. The guest of Senator Reed. Great to have you in Alabama Senate. All right.
On page 34 of the calendar, House Bill 213 by Representative Lovern, regarding the Volunteer Rescue Squad Tuition Reimbursement Act, BIR pending.
Mr. President, I move the BIR using previous roll. Without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nay. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 34 of the calendar, House Bill 213 by Representative Lovern, regarding the Volunteer Rescue Squad Tuition Reimbursement Act.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, the Volunteer Rescue Squad Act was passed in 2018. This simply allows an association to be reimbursed for that as opposed to a student that was enrolled. We had a number of young folks that didn't have the money to pay for this program. That's what it allows to do. And if no questions, I'd move that we use the previous roll for final passage. No objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 213 passes. Thanks, Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, we need to definitely postpone SB 145.
All right. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that bill is indefinitely postponed. All right, Secretary, call the next bill on the calendar.
On page 36 of the calendar, Senate Bill 245 by Senator Gavan regarding the Alabama Business and Nonprofit Entity Code, BIR pending.
Senator Gavan.
President, I move the BR using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 37 of the calendar, House Senate Bill number 245 by Senator Gavan regarding the Alabama Business and Nonprofit Entity Code, committee amendment pending.
Senator Gavan.
I would move adoption of the committee amendment without objection, of using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The committee amendment's adopted. Senator Gavan.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill 245 by Senator Gavan.
So, Mr. President, what this amendment is about is that it was requested at one of the larger business entities because their board of directors operates by proxy. And while the drafters did not think that that was in the way that nonprofits should be handled, and it's not the law right now for business, for profit entities to be able to do that. What this does is to make as we go through this process, we're trying to make our nonprofit entities and our business entities and LLCs, all that sort of stuff, corporations line up and mesh in how that they interact. And so what this amendment does is it takes out those restrictions on directors having proxies, both in for profit and for nonprofit. So we get into both of those sections. So Senator Singham, do you have any?
So you're currently stating that that this amendment would take out that section to now they can continue to have the proxies.
They could, yes, that's correct.
I want to be clear about that. Okay.
So if there's not objection, I would offer the amendment or passage of the amendment using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Gavan amendment's adopted. Senator Gavan.
So at this point in time, I would move for, unless the senator's got some questions, move for final passage using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 245 passes amended. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 42 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 330 by Senator Roberts relating to currency, BR pending.
Senator Roberts.
Mr. President, I'd like to move the BR using previous role without objection, please.
All right, any objection?
Go ahead, Mr. President.
All right, no objection on the BR using previous role. Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 42 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 330 relating to currency.
Mr. President,
Senator Roberts.
I believe my colleague Senator Andrew Jones has an amendment that's friendly, and I'd yield to him, please, sir.
All right, Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Roberts. This is a friendly amendment. It just simply adds the World Bank into the agency similar to the Federal Reserve or federal agency.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
I've got copies here if anybody wants one.
Amendment to Senate Bill 330 by Senator Jones. Replace lines 35 on page 2 with the following.
Mr. President, friendly amendment, so I'd move adoption using the previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Jones amendment's adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Roberts, for your work on this.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Senator Jones. Senator Roberts.
Mr. President, without that, no objection. I'd like to move passage using previous roll without a.
Nobody.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know my colleague had a question.
All right, Senator Singleton.
Would you just please tell me what you're doing in this bill?
Absolutely will do,
Thank
sir.
you.
As you know, there was an executive order issued last March 18th, I believe, instructing an entire process to deal with a central bank digital currency. And I think the aim at one day is to replace any paper money that we have with walking around with digital currency on some electronic device. All I'm trying to do is say, let's tap the brakes here. There are major concerns that this bill addresses related to the issuance of digital currency as issued by the central bank, and the concern heightened given the recent testing and discussions by the Federal Reserve with this digital currency. There were stress tests done October and November on large portions of our banking system, and these are linked to the fact that this would undermine the viability of private banks and other financial clearing houses. So we're trying to just tap the brakes, and until we meet again, give us the opportunity to determine who's going to hold these digital coins or currency as they come in, where they're housed. Will it require appropriations for us to store currency in a different method than we have previously? We just think it's important to kind of tap the brakes on this moving forward. And that's literally what this bill deals with, sir.
Is this a banking bill for the banking commissioner?
I'm not.
Who's going to regulate that?
I think every bit of this is what we will have the opportunity to address and deal with. This is just saying between now and the next time we come back, I'm guessing we will have legislation dealing with many aspects of this as we go forward. We're just saying between now and the next time we come together, we're going to tap the brakes here, literally is what that is. I can see down the road, if you remember, we passed a bill that mandates that cash has to be received to get into Alabama High School Athletic Association events, because all of us were blown up over that issue. That's a typical example of what I'd say that this could happen very quickly. Everyone has to adopt using your iPhone to pay for something, or your or another type of Android device that you would have to carry with you at all times. And I think there'll be a large learning curve that'll take place in the United States if and when this becomes what we're going to do. It's right now, it's not even currently listed as money by our state. So we're just trying to slow this roll until we come back again, have a chance to understand what will be required, what do we do when this happens, and how we as the state will choose to deal with that, sir.
Okay.
So with that, Mr. President, I'd like to move final passage using previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Right.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 330 passes. Thanks, Senator
Mr.
Roberts.
President.
Secretary, call next bill.
On page 32 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 312 by Senator Chambliss relating to motor vehicles. BR pending.
Senator Chambliss.
Mr. President, I move the BR using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
Thirty-three ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 32 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 312 by Senator Chambliss relating to liability insurance.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill 312 by Senator Chambliss. Replace line 60 on page 3 with the following.
Mr. President, I move adoption of the amendment using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Chambliss amendment's adopted. Senator Chambliss.
Mr. President, seeing no questions, I'd just move final passage using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
All right, 33 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 312 passes amended. Thanks, Senator Chambliss.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 36 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 106 by Senator Coleman Madison relating to municipal courts, BR pending.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Coleman Madison.
I'd like to call up out of order substitute SB 105 on page 18, which is the
All right.
fishing posting bill.
All right, let's first carry this bill over.
I'd like to carry SB 106 over.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Senate Bill 106 is carried over. Okay. Now, we need unanimous consent to bring up which bill?
I'd like unanimous consent to bring up Senate Bill 105, page 18, which is the posting of fishing.
Okay, any objection to that? Hearing none, so ordered. Secretary, call up Senate Bill, you said 105?
105.
All right. Secretary, call Senate Bill 105.
On page 18 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 105 by Senator Coleman Madison relating to the consumption of fish, BR pending.
All right, Senator Coleman Madison.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pass the BR using the previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 18 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 105 by Senator Coleman Madison relating to health, committee substitute pending.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move this up using previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
Thirty-three ayes, 0 nays. The committee substitutes adopted. All right, Senator Coleman Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill has been thoroughly vetted in our committee and here on the floor when we previously discussed it. Basically, what it does is require posting along areas where people fish and has been contaminated to let people know that this area has been contaminated and to just beware. So if there are no questions, I move final passage using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
33 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 105 passes amended. Thanks, Senator Coleman Madison. All right, Secretary, call the next bill on the calendar.
On page 11 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 97 by Senator Gavan relating to paroles, BR pending.
Senator Gavan.
Mr. President, I would move the BR using previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Let me borrow your pen.
Give me 1 second. Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 11 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 97 by Senator Gavan relating to incarceration, committee amendment pending.
Senator Gavan.
So at this time, Mr. President, what I would like to do is carry over SB 97 to the call of the chair, if there's no objection, and bring up the companion House bill, which is HB 131 by Representative Kitchens.
All right, so you want to carry over Senate Bill 97 to call the chair?
Correct.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. All right, Senate Bill 97 is carried over to call the chair. Now, which bill do you want to bring up?
With unanimous consent, I would like to bring up HB 131 by Representative Kitchens.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
On page 38, House Bill number 131 by Representative Kitchens relating to parole, BR pending.
So
Senator Gavan.
at this time, I'd move the BIR using previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection?
Mr. President,
Yes, Senator Singleton.
is this the exact same bill?
It should be the mirror bill, yes, sir.
Same, should be.
Yeah, well, I notice I qualify.
Should be.
So I would move for adoption of the BIR using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, 0 nays, the BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 38 of the calendar, House Bill number 131 by Representative Kitchens relating to parole, committee amendment pending.
At this
Senator
time, Mr. President, I would move for adoption of the committee amendment using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, 0 nays, the committee amendment's adopted.
Believe that Senator Singleton has an amendment he'd like to offer.
All right, Senator Singleton.
So offer an amendment, please.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 97 by Senator Singleton.
Well,
While the Senator's working on that, I will talk about the purpose of this bill. This is the Jimmy Spencer loophole bill that where he was released, was actually paroled while he had charges against him for another felony. And this was one of the reasons I wanted particularly Representative Kitchens' bill to pass, is that because it happened in Marshall County, where when he was erroneously released, 3 people in Marshall County lost their life due to that error, or in my judgment, error. I think it was error on a couple of different levels, and this is to deal with that again. But what we discussed about as we were going through the committee, we talked about the way it was set up originally. It dealt with just people that had charges that could be misdemeanors. And so the amendment that we just adopted was for things that would take more than a year, basically kick you up to felony status. So I don't know, is yours ready yet, Senator? Or?
no, they're getting it ready.
Okay.
Yeah, just continue to talk about that committee amendment.
So there were several members of the committee that felt like it was very important that we shouldn't be having misdemeanors on this, especially, and I don't work in the criminal defense world, but from talking to people that have experience in that arena, there could be a lot of situations where someone might have a misdemeanor. Maybe they're arrested in Madison County, but they've got a misdemeanor in Montgomery County, and Montgomery didn't see fit to go all the way up to Huntsville to go pick them up. And it just seemed like to a number of the members of the committee that it would be a situation of unfairness to have that situation come up, and that somebody's running the gamut on all the different things that you could be arrested for.
Well, Senator, this amendment that I'm going to be bringing is all about notice. It's about giving that notice where prisoners should immediately be notified by the Department of Correction of any new charges pursuant that's coming up. So it's got to be some notice there. So before they even turn that prisoner loose, that he needs to be known that he has new charges. So somebody will be coming to pick him up. And so you at least give the prison notice. So you need to, from one county to the next county, need to know also. So maybe we need to make sure that everybody gets some notice out there.
It'd be nice if they talked to each other a little better, wouldn't it?
It really would be. But, we talked on a bill just the other day about all the municipal city systems that may be different in terms of being able to bring all of their data under one system so what courts and the law enforcement can see their records. But sometimes city to city, they don't operate on the same small systems. And so I think someone brought a bill to try to talk about merging all of those together and looking at that study to do that. And I know one of my concerns on that bill in our judiciary was that some of these small systems cost these little towns a lot of money to be able to run. And a lot of them help paying maintenance, they're under contract. So unless we're going to put some money into it to help them with those systems, it's going to be hard for a lot of those small towns to break away from what they have because they invested in it. You know, it depends on where they are in their contracts that we put this mandate on them. And so,
It's certainly a burden on the small towns to change, because what may seem like an insignificant software change for a larger community could be a material burden for a smaller community.
exactly. So, they're working, man. You know.
Hey, look, I had to sit there and read a bill for 15 minutes that I didn't realize.
If you allow me,
ready to go.
even without taking a point of personal privilege, today I'm just sad to announce that Tina Turner died today, you all.
Oh,
Tina Turner. I'm sure you all remember Tina at some point in your life.
1980s.
Yes, indeed. Okay, back to the
Well,
rolling.
I'm not going to try to sing, and I dang sure ain't going to try to dance.
Yeah, Senator Gavan, your singing would not be germane.
I would rule myself out of order, Mr. President.
Well, I think, I know when this bill was first presented, you've done some work on this bill to get it to where it is, and I appreciate what you've done to bring some things narrow back in. Because I think when we first looked at that bill, in terms of who was going out there to parole officers and dealing with that whole piece, and I think the Department of Pardon and Parole even had some issues at some point in time and wanted to talk about this. But I think that you've done a good job at putting this together and working with others to make this bill better, and accepting this amendment on notice here that we got that's coming up as soon as we can get it.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to House Bill 131 by Senator Singleton. Replace line 158 on page 6 with the following: notwithstanding any law to the contrary. Replace line 162 on page 6 with the following:
Mr. President, motion to adopt.
All right, Chuck, use previous role.
Previous role. Without
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Singleton amendment is adopted. Senator Singleton, all right, Senator Gavan.
So, Mr. President, at this time, I would like to move for a final passage using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 131 passed amended. Senator Gavan.
At this time, I'd like to bring up SB 171, which is at the call of the chair.
All right, Secretary, call up SB 191.
171.
171.
On page 18 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 171 by Senator Gavan relating to health.
Is this the?
And I have an amendment.
All right, Senator Gavan.
I'd like to offer an amendment at this time.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to the Gavan substitute for Senate Bill 171.
So, Mr. President, what this does is makes a couple of changes that we've gotten some feedback on from various people. The first one is actually from one of our members. It actually would change the way the substitute read is that the state health planning or the state health board would submit a list of names. It doesn't say how many names. It just says a list of names to the governor for appointment we had put some parameters in there that it had to be a physician, that they had to have a master's in public health or an MBA or something like that. There was some resistance that, maybe the best person for this office wouldn't have an MBA or wouldn't have a master's in public health. So the first section of the amendment says that it would just simply, whoever was appointed would include possession of a full, active, and unrestricted license to practice medicine in Alabama. The next thing that we had was just a technicality. There were some people, actually the next two things, there were some people out there that were really vocal that thought that this bill was trying to give extra powers to the state health officer, and that's not what this is about. There was no intention. I tried to reword this to try to tamp down on any concerns about unintended consequences. And then also in there were people saying, oh, well, you're going to be able to, state health officer, the governor can require people to get vaccinations. And so this amendment also says nothing shall allow the state health officer or the governor to require an individual to be vaccinated against COVID-19. So, Senator, do you have you want to discuss this amendment?
Yeah, I'm going to have to discuss this amendment. I knew it was still out here, and I just wasn't ready for you to bring it up today, so I guess I got to be ready today. I was ready to move this calendar on and go on home, but I think I'm going to have to take a little time now. I'm going to start my first hour with this amendment right here, get it in shape, and I got a couple other amendments I want to do. I'm just confused as to where this bill is really going and what's the genesis of this. I keep hearing you changing it. You changed it 3 times since you and I have been dealing with it. You changed it again.
Trying to make it better, Senator.
You changed it again then, but yet it's still, we don't have no real explanation of what those changes are. And so some of it just hot off the press. I know my people don't. It's my first time hearing about your change when it just, in that amendment, I got to relate it into the bill. Then, so I mean, I slow this down because you're talking about taking a governor kind of cabinet member out, basically.
Well, I would argue
out of their role to do what it is today.
So just on that point, Senator, we have worked with, we've worked with a medical group on trying to massage this. We've tried to make this where this is not relitigating COVID-19, okay? I really have tried to do that. I've tried to take the personalities out of it. And as you know, there's been a lot of change in the last week or so. I didn't try to go back on where we were before all that blew up. And that was on there could be no gubernatorial appointment of the state health officer. Now, there's a lot of people saying, oh, get rid of them, get rid of them, get rid of them. This bill doesn't do that because it would not kick in until there's a new governor or a vacancy in the state health officer, okay? So if Governor Ivey finishes out her term, then nothing can happen until then, and he doesn't resign or the board doesn't terminate him for something like that. But there will be no power in the governor to remove Dr. Harris. I didn't even hardly read your amendment. I just took it.
We went down this rabbit hole once before. I remember it was senators no longer here. We went down this rabbit hole, and I've kind of seen this show before. And health officer of this state, in times of emergencies are important. Basically, the rules of the health of this state, they're important. And give us information, direction that most common people don't think about until the time of those moments. These people look at it, forecast it, see it coming, be able to give us some measurements of what, within probability of what could happen. I like for smart people to tell me in the midst of those things, because I don't know. You know, you make your own judgments and you do your own thing. But a lot of people died in that. Whether lives could have been saved or not, they're dead. We ask God to bless each and one of their souls. That debate will go on and on and on and on and on. So we just gotta try to get it right, making sure that we understand that when we're in these crises, learn from it. You know, we had a committee on the whole virus piece that was set up, a commission that was set up by this legislature. And we did a report on it. And it was a bipartisan group up through a SJR, and came back with a report on where they thought command was, how it went down, you know, what could be done better. And so there's a report out there. And I think that could be a start for us to look, to say, hey, some of my colleagues have already sit down with these folks, talked to them, been able to listen to what they was doing. And a lot of us were involved because we were, you know, taking command in some of our communities. I know that there was those phone calls on a daily basis, weekly basis at one time with leadership. And I think a lot of times, you know, people were on the phones getting instructions, and we was in those early stages of that at that time. And everybody was scrambling, just wondering what was going on. And so the science is what, you know, started leading us in these directions that we were going. Thank God that there came something called a vaccine. You know, that here we are, we're able to be hand in hand today, and it didn't take years. It didn't take years for that to happen. Technology allows that to happen more expediently than what it has ever happened because of science. So, you know, and these doctors study the science. So I believe in it. And so we'll be around here for a while because can't be carrying out cabinet members, people who sit. I remember once we were talking about the legislature having some authority to be able to say when an emergency order should be signed. I thought about that was, we have to wait till we come back in a special session. Everybody got to travel across the state before somebody would say there's an emergency. This is not gonna happen, man. Nah. So we can make it hard or easy. And let the health officer be the health officer. The governor choose that health officer. Executive orders goes out. And let us obey. Got to fight. Yes. Ooh. Hey man, I'm hoarse this evening. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm on my time. I guess I need to be talking on my own time, don't I? Started my hour. Yeah. I think we was having a great day. I think we could get on through this calendar here. We could have us a awesome day, and thought we was just smoothing along. Get it out. Just some things out and let the people go home and get them an early dinner tonight, since we did a late dinner last night. Yeah. A snack. Yeah, so we got a good calendar here. We need to go and finish up. Yeah. So, Alabama bail reform, they trying to reform. Thank you, homeboy. I do.
Hello, Mr. President.
Hey, Senator Gouveia, how are you doing?
So while there's discussion over there, I will talk a little bit about this bill and where we do make changes here. Essentially, there's a couple of issues here. One is I don't think it's controversial at all, and that is saying that the state health officer can't adopt an emergency rule without the consent of the governor. Right now, that is at the discretion of the state health officer, and the governor doesn't have the power for it. I'll yield back to. So, okay. Well, I'll go through those changes. So again, the governor would be able to appoint from a list received by the State Committee on Public Health. That the state health officer would serve at the pleasure of the governor. The state health officer would have the requirement to be in possession of a full, active, and unrestricted license to practice medicine in Alabama. All the other changes are just like, the styling changes that they do. The state health officer would have to stay informed with regard to the actual or potential outbreak of any diseases affecting the state, which is something they should be doing anyway. And they would make recommendations to the governor to, as they deem necessary, to control, prevent, or minimize an outbreak. And then the governor should have the authority to approve or deny any action proposed by the state health officer which would restrict, limit, or otherwise burden the conduct of private citizens or businesses. And then we would, and any emergency rule would have to be adopted by the governor. So the buck would stop with her. And that would not stop the state health officer from doing its routine things. So as far as the amendment, how it ties in, again, we just talked about how it would remove the requirements for a master's in public health or an MBA or anything like that. Senator Stutz had a problem with that, and some other people that reached out to me had a problem with that. Then it would, yes, we were trying to work on the language because there were people, in my opinion, they were looking for ghosts in this bill, and there were people who really got worked up, and so I tried to just tone down and clarify that we're not giving the state health officer any additional powers in here. There were people in here, there were people that were looking at this bill and thinking that we were giving the state health officer, unlimited power. Well, the power the state health officer got, he's already got. It's not coming from this bill. It's already under existing law. And so I was just trying to massage that. Really, I don't know that it's that material. And then the other thing was that there was a fear that this somehow gave backdoor requirements for a vaccination. I wanted to be clear that it does not require COVID-19 vaccinations, because again, that seems to be where the drama is.
So, Senator, with this amendment that you just explained, you're saying that the health officer would now answer to the governor.
I'm sorry?
The health officer would answer to the governor.
Yes. Well, you still report to the state board. I mean, they'd set his salary, and they would be, no pun intended, they would be a governor on the line of choices to the governor, because they would control the names. That was one of the things we were trying to, we were trying to protect against a runaway governor here. Governor just appointing their golfing buddy. That was, one of my concerns, and several other senators' concerns, is that we needed a check and balance on both. We felt like, not just give the governor free rein and as far as, getting their best friend or something like that a job, because we don't know who's going to be. I mean, this just like we don't know who the state health officer is going to be. We don't know how the governors are going to react over time. So we felt like that was a reasonable balance between the state health board and the governor's office in selecting this.
But then it goes on to basically say that in an emergency, right, that the health officer, I thought I heard you read, could not. What is it about that with business, that part in the bill?
So, when we had the statewide mandates that, shut down, you can go to Home Depot, but you can't go to church, and, things like that. Those could not be signed off on without the governor. But we don't want the governor having to get involved every time they have to shut down the oyster beds, down in the Gulf. We don't need the governor micromanaging everything. We're talking about, really truly state of emergency that the governor would have to sign off on that. But routine, checks of different businesses, things of that nature that are in the routine course of the state health officer, they would still operate as they do today.
Yeah, but still, this bill in the state of emergency, who will be calling the shots?
Once the state of emergency, well, first of all, the governor's got to declare a state of emergency.
Okay.
Okay? Then the state health officer would make a recommendation to the governor, and then the governor would have final sign off on that.
And so,
And that's the part, and I know you and I have talked about this before, just because other people got something worked out doesn't mean they got it worked out with you. I understand that, and I respect that 100% because I feel the same way about things. So I'm not begrudging that. But that was, to the extent it helps at all, that was the section that there was the least amount of contentiousness about.
the least amount of
The
contention.
least amount.
See, some things mean a little bit more to some people, you know?
Oh, well, that's true.
So, but in that state of emergency, it's important that we're getting the right information and right guidance. And it's even better when we're not getting it secondhand.
So
We should be getting that information, direction, and guidance on what's coming down the pipeline, how we should be handling things. Somebody has to be in control. And if the health officer is the person in control, so now you're telling me in the state of emergency, when the governor signs and calls the state of emergency under this bill, now the state health officer may sit over here and say A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now I got to go and talk to the governor about A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Then the governor has to be the last person to sign off on it. But if the governor don't want it, then the governor can tell me to go back to the drawing board, and the governor then can make her own statement.
that's correct.
Without any science, without any knowledge, we're just gonna allow that to be out there. Or maybe I have to go and consult with someone else because of something that may have a combination of saying shut down schools and shut down businesses.
Well, Senator, I mean, somebody's making that decision. And yes, we are talking about the governor making that decision. Right now, it is a bureaucrat that's completely unaccountable to the people of Alabama. And the whole idea, the whole premise behind this bill was to try to make that person accountable to the state of Alabama and to the public. And if you'd be willing to let me go ahead and adopt this amendment, I will agree to carry it over to call the chair if we can get that amendment adopted.
No problems.
I appreciate that, Senator.
Thank you.
So this time I would, do you want to use long roll or?
No, you can use the previous roll.
Okay, so this time I would adopt the amendment using previous roll without objection.
Is there objection? Secretary, call the short roll.
Strawbridge. Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Gavan amendment's adopted. Senator Gavan.
At this time, I would like to carry over the bill to call the chair.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. Senate Bill 171 is carried over to the call of the chair. Thanks, Secretary. Call the next bill on the calendar.
We'll fight another day.
On page 29 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 291 by Senator Coleman relating to public contracts. BR pending.
Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move adoption of the BIR using the previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbridge. Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 29 of the calendar, Senate Bill 291 by Senator Coleman relating to public contracts.
Thank you again. There is a friendly amendment I'm handling. Senator Orr gave me an amendment that we accept, and I would move passage of that amended using the previous roll with no objection.
All right, any objection? Wait. All right, Secretary Reed and receive the amendment, please.
Amendment to Senate Bill 291 by Senator Coleman. Replace line 203 on page 8 with the following: the purchase of services to aid in.
Senator Coleman.
Thank you. And in essence, what it does, there is a portion in the bill that talks about an exclusion for equipment and services. And we really wanted to keep it specifically around software. And this is for crime fighting software for law enforcement officers. And so we agree, we took the equipment portion out and the amendment just simply says services.
All right, you want to move for adoption?
Yes, move final passage as amended using previous rule with no objection.
All right. Using previous role in the amendment. Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Coleman amendment is adopted. Senator Coleman.
Thank you. I thought we were already at final passage before, so this time move final passage of Senate Bill 291 as amended using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 291 passes amended. Thanks, Senator Coleman.
Thank you.
All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
Thank you. So nobody.
On page 37 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 320 by Senator Bell relating to criminal procedure. BR pending.
All right, before we go, would like to, that was Senator Coleman's first bill as a senator. Congratulations, Senator Coleman. All right, Senator Bell.
Mr. President, motion to adopt BR.
All right, would you like to use previous role?
Previous role.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 39 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 320 by Senator Bell relating to criminal procedure. Committee amendment pending.
Senator Bell.
Mr. President, motion to adopt the amendment using previous role.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. The committee amendment's adopted. All right, Senator Bell.
President, motion to adopt final passage of the bill using previous role, no objections.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton.
No.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 320 passes. Thank you, Senator Bell. Secretary, call next bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 284 by Senator Chambliss relating to public safety. BR pending.
Senator Chambliss.
Mr. President.
All right, Senator Singleton.
BR use the previous role without objection.
All right, any objection?
Chambliss.
Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 284 by Senator Chambliss relating to public safety.
Senator Chambliss.
Mr. President, this bill is dealing with dam safety. I have a substitute. There was some concerns brought up to me by DCNR, and we've just taken that part out, and then we'll deal with that in the off season.
You said you have a substitute?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Secretary Reed and receive the substitute, please.
Substitute for Senate Bill 284 by Senator Chambliss.
All right, Senator Chambliss.
Again, the substitute just takes out the things that were of issue with DCNR, and it leaves the rest, and we'll work on those during the off season. With that, I'd move final passage using the previous role.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Chambliss substitutes adopted. All right. Now we're on final passage.
Mr. President, I move passage of SB 284 using the previous roll.
All right. Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 284 passes. Thank you, Senator Chambliss, Senator Orr, Senator Singleton. All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 40 of the calendar, Senate Bill 294 by Senator Stewart relating to state employees. BR pending.
Mr. President.
Senator Orr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of the BR using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 40 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 294 by Senator Stewart relating to state employees.
Mr. President.
All right, Senator
An
Singleton.
amendment.
You have an amendment?
Amendment.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment, please.
Amendment to Senate Bill 294 by Senator Singleton. Replace line 64 on page 3 with the following.
Mr. President.
Senator Singleton.
It's an agreed upon amendment, and I'll move for adoption of use of previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Singleton amendment is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'd move third reading using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 294 passes.
Mr. President,
Senator Orr.
I'd move for unanimous consent to consider a resolution that's mourning the death of.
All right, any objection?
Got a
Hearing none, so ordered. Secretary,
funeral coming up.
we received the resolution. Yeah.
Senate Joint Resolution number 87 by Senator Orr, mourning the death of Mr. Lynn Curley Fowler.
Mr. President, I'd like to move immediate consideration.
All right, any objection? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Thanks, Senator Orr.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 37 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 316 by Senator Figures relating to tobacco products. BR pending.
Senator Figures.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move for the adoption of the budget isolation resolution for Senate Bill 316 with previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Oh, I'm sorry, but can you add me? Okay.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 37 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 316 by Senator Figures relating to tobacco products. Committee amendment pending.
Senator Figures.
Thank you, Mr. President. It actually has to do with vaping and making sure that it's illegal for people under 21 to have vaping devices. So with that, and if there aren't any questions, I would like to adopt the committee amendment, please, using previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The committee amendment is adopted. Senator Figures.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for final passage, reading at length to be dispensed with, using previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 316 passes. Thanks, Senator Figures.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I could just take this moment to thank every senator in here that signed on to this bill, which was all 33 of you, with the exception of Senator Kelly, because he was in Washington, D.C. receiving an honor in real estate. So thank all of you. I couldn't have done it without your support. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Figures. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 15 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 213 by Senator Sessions relating to the Alabama Bail Reform Act. BR pending.
Senator Sessions.
Mr. President, I'd
like to move the BIR using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted.
Mr.
Secretary, call the
President,
bill.
I have
Hold on one second. Secretary, call the bill.
This is agreed upon amendments by the, with the bail bondsman, with the sheriffs and the circuit clerks and some of the district attorneys. They had worked on this after it got out of committee, and this agreed upon amendment. I move to adopt the amendment. Okay. Trying to keep the train rolling, trying to get this through the gamut.
We like it. It's important. All right, Senator Sessions.
Motion to adopt amendment using previous role.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Sessions Amendment number 1 is adopted. Senator Sessions.
Mr. President, I have another amendment.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment, please.
Amendment to Senate Bill 213 by Senator Sessions. Replace lines 198 through 199 on page 8 with the following. Replace line 393 on page 15 with the following. Replace line 439 through 449 on pages 16 and 17 with the following.
Good.
Senator Sessions.
Mr. President, move to adopt the amendment using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Sessions Amendment number 2 is adopted. All right, Senator Sessions.
Mr. President, move that the bill be passed third reading as adopted using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 213 passes as amended. Thank you, Senator Sessions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, body.
All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 40 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 313 by Senator Butler relating to the Department of Economic and Community Affairs. BR pending.
Senator Butler.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of BIR in previous role.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 40 of the calendar, Senate Bill 313 relating to the Department of Economic and Community Affairs.
Mr. President,
Senator Butler.
at the Welcome Center at the Alabama-Tennessee line is one of 3 original Saturn rockets that took us to the moon and back. It is in disrepair right now, And this bill would let ADECA go in and repair, restore, do whatever they need to do. It's been there, 44 years, and it's an iconic symbol for Alabama. And I'd move passage of the bill using the previous rule.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 313 passes. Thanks, Senator
Mr.
Butler.
President.
Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 44 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 315 by Senator Roberts relating to public utilities. BR pending.
Senator Roberts.
Mr. President, I'd like to move BR using previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 44 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 315 by Senator Roberts relating to public utilities. Committee amendment pending.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the amendment using previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 315 passes. I'm sorry, committee amendment passes.
Thank you.
All right, Senator Roberts.
Mr. President, in light of that, I'd like to move final passage SB 315 using previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 315 passes amended. Thanks,
Thank
Senator
you,
Roberts.
Mr. President.
Yep, Secretary, call the next bill in the calendar.
On page 27 of the calendar, House Bill number 364 by Representative Robbins relating to education. BR pending.
Senator Bell.
Mr. President, move adopt BR.
All right, would you like to use previous rule?
Previous row, no objections.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 27 of the calendar, House Bill number 364 by Representative Robbins relating to education.
Senator Bell.
Mr. President, this is the bill for schools to accept cash for sporting events, ball games, things of that nature. And I've asked final passage of the bill.
All right.
Using previous row, no objections.
All right, any objection? All right, hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 364 passes. Thanks, Senator
President.
Bell. Senator Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like a moment of personal privilege.
You're recognized.
Thank you, sir. Senator, you passed your bill quickly, and I'm glad about it, but I had a word I wanted to say. I appreciate you and the representative bringing this legislation. I had a circumstance happen in my district. One of my constituents went to a little girl softball game that goes to his church. He's the pastor of that church, and it was very important for him to be able to go to that softball game. Had a pocket full of money, but has a jitterbug cell phone. Had no ability to be able to get in the ball game. Upset over it, okay? That pastor's name happened to be Charles Harbison, who was my father-in-law. He called me after that and he said, I don't know what you all are doing, but you better fix this. So I just wanted to be on the record, Senator, that I am in absolute support of this. I want to be able to go to a ball game, pay cash money, American greenbacks, to be able to get in the ball game. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem.
Thanks, Senator Reed. All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 7 of the calendar, House Bill number 109 by Representative Collins relating to the Alabama Credential Quality and Transparency Act. BR pending.
Senator Orr.
Mr. President, move adoption of the BR using previous rule.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 7 of the calendar, House Bill number 109 by Representative Collins regarding the Credential Quality and Transparency Act. Committee amendment pending.
Senator Orr.
Mr. President, you move adoption of the committee amendment using previous rule.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The committee amendment is adopted. Senator Orr.
Move third reading using the previous rule, Mr. President.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 109 passes. Thank you, Senator Orr. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 40 of the calendar, House Bill number 421 by Representative Ingram regarding state symbols. PR pending.
Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry for my delay in getting to the microphone. Been a little befuddled by some things today, and we're starting to work through them. And with that being said, I'd ask for adoption of the BR using the previous rule.
All right, any objection? All right, hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BIR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 40 of the calendar, House Bill number 421 by Representative Ingram relating to state symbols.
Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, we've certainly run the gamut of bills today.
It's been a busy day.
And I appreciate the body's attention to this. Ladies and gentlemen of the Alabama Senate, I think each of you over the past week or so have had an opportunity to see and, more importantly, taste the Alabama Yellowhammer. Hopefully, Alabama's official state cookie. So let me give you a little background on this. We have, of course, the Lane cake from Barber County is the state cake. We've got the yam as the vegetable from Coleman County over some objection. Ladies and gentlemen, this bill was brought to me by some students at Trinity Presbyterian School here in Montgomery. Fourth graders were studying state symbols in Alabama history classes and found that Alabama does not have an official state cookie. Now, after some discussion, the class decided a state cookie would be a great way to get the students across the state interested in Alabama's history, agriculture, and government. Class held a competition. 24 recipes were submitted. The recipes were narrowed down to 5 finalists, and the senior government class at Trinity judged the final competition. That's a difficult task. I'm sure there were lots of great cookies there. The winner that I hold in my hand was the Yellowhammer cookie. It's a recipe developed by one of the fourth graders and her parents, and the recipe features peanuts, Alabama's own state legume, pecans, which is the Alabama state nut. So you can see it truly is an Alabama cookie. This bill will give Alabama students an additional incentive to learn about Alabama's rich agricultural history, including the peanut research of George Washington Carver that we all know was very important to this state, Tuskegee University, and the impact that Alabama's robust pecan industry of Mobile and Baldwin counties, elsewhere in the state, I might add. There are several other states that have state cookies, but nobody else will have the Alabama Yellowhammer cookie. That student, fourth grade student at Trinity Presbyterian, is Mary Claire Cook. And I'm proud to present this body with hopefully what will become, after a yay vote on HB 421, the Alabama Yellowhammer cookie is the official state cookie. With that, I yield to my colleague if she has questions.
All right, Senator Coleman Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Barfoot, thank you, and thank the students of, which school is it?
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
Which school?
This is Trinity Presbyterian.
Trinity
Montgomery.
Presbyterian.
I believe in Senator Hatcher's district.
Okay. And we want to thank the students. We are glad that they are participating and getting involved and finding out, really, this is an example of how government works. You know, and we say all politics is local. They had an idea. I'm just hoping because, you know, as you say, we have the state, well, soon the state could get the state cake and everything, you know, and I still have some issues with that. I would hope that moving forward, before we name another state something, I don't know what, that if we're going to have something, that we have a statewide competition. And we have people to come in and do, if it's food, to do taste testing and to find out really what is the best. I want to thank the students for their efforts, but this is how government is and laws are made, so I want them to understand that. Everybody's not going to agree. And the issue that I have with that cookie that I tasted, food allergies. There are a lot of kids that have food allergies, and peanuts is one of those allergies that basically, that most parents are very sensitive to. And so you're assuming, I would assume when I first bit into it, I'm like, is this peanuts? And we are making this a state cookie. I would have hoped that it would have been a cookie that all of these things, and again, I think that there should be some guidelines if we're going to do it. Let's do a statewide contest, involve all the schools, and say, here are some guidelines, and these are the things that we want you to be cognizant of. The fact that there are children that have food allergies, and peanuts is one of those big issues. That's a red flag. So we don't want you to use a peanut product, although, you know, we understand that peanut has played a very important role in our history. But I really would rather have gotten some others involved with this, because right now we're coming up with, whoever comes up with an idea and say, well, let's make this a state, and then it's put out there, and this is publicity for the state. And then the other thing is that I want to make sure that it is the best product and the best taste, that it's a cookie that I would come to Alabama to get, or a cookie that I would stop to get. And so I'd like to have some judges on it before we pass final say on it. But I know we're trying to make the kids happy and everything, but I want to understand this is state law that we are passing, and this is something that's going to be put out and going to be promoted and advertised. And when people come to Alabama and they taste it, said, this is the state's cookie. No difference to this is a state cake. Anyway.
The Lane cake is a great cake, by the way. I love it. Ms. Emma Lane, I think, from Barbara.
You're right, and I love Senator Beasley. It's an acquired taste.
Great cake.
Again, I would say that we need to have some criteria. We need to have more people to be involved with the process, and we need to have more than one selection of somebody come up and say, this is it, and this is Granny's recipe, and I may love Granny's, because that's what I grew up on. But that may not be the taste for the palate for the entire state of Alabama, or what we want to put out to the world and people who come to visit. And those are my comments. Thank you. Mr. Wildman, may I take a point of personal privilege, if you don't mind? Okay, let me do it when he finishes. Let's see what happened with this cake.
All right. Thanks, Senator Coleman Madison. You want to talk on this?
Yes.
All right, Senator Sessions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Barfoot?
Yes, sir.
This come through the committee the other day. And, you know, the lobbyists for this particular bill come to me and wanted to get it on committee, and I agreed. And I told him, I said, you know, we should at least sample what we're going to be voting on. And they had some logistic issues, like supply chain issues that they've been having all over the country and all over the world. And I said, you know, it's pretty bad we couldn't have a sample before we voted on that. But then in the comments, he started telling me what was in them. And when he got to peanuts and pecans, I said, well, you know, I'm a peanut and a pecan farmer. All you had to do is say that first. We wouldn't have no problem.
Thank you, Senator Sessions.
All right, Senator Barfoot, you ready?
Yes, Mr. President, if I could, I move for final passage of HB 481 used in previous role.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw Britton. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 421 passes. And I'd like to recognize some special guests in the gallery that and Mary Claire Cook. If you could please stand. She is the creator of the steak cookie recipe, and then her teachers, Kylie Osmer and Catherine Bandy. If y'all could please stand. So. All right, Secretary, call the next bill. Thanks, Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 41 of the calendar, House Bill number 455 by Representative Standridge relating to the Forestry Commission. BR pending.
Mr. President, Mr. President, I move the BIR using previous role. No objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 41 of the calendar, House Bill number 455 by Representative Standridge relating to the Forestry Commission.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, there's some 1,000 volunteer fire departments across the state of Alabama. This would require the Alabama Forestry Commission to establish a training program for those volunteer fire departments and help them with inspection on their equipment and all. So there's no appropriation with it. If the Senator has no questions.
No, I think this is a good bill. I think we need as much training we can give our volunteer fire departments. That's all I have, rural volunteer fire departments in my district. So thank you for bringing this
A
bill.
lot of instances there, the first ones there and the last ones to leave, and we certainly do appreciate them. And with that, Mr. President, I move for final passage using previous role with no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill
Thank you, Mr.
455 passes. Thanks, Senator Livingston. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 25 of the calendar, House Bill number 75 by Representative Mooney regarding the Alabama Private Investigation Board. BR pending.
All right, Senator Bell.
Motion to adopt BIR using previous role, no objections.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 25 of the calendar, House Bill number 75 by Representative Mooney regarding the Alabama Private Investigation Board.
Senator Bell.
Motion for final passage using previous role, no objections.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 75 passes. Thanks, Senator Bell. Secretary, call the next bill.
Chair. On page 39 of the calendar, House Bill number 11 by Representative Sells relating to the Board of Electronic Security Board. BR pending.
Senator Singleton.
Mr. President, move for the BIR use previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
Page 39 of the calendar, House Bill number 11 by Representative Sells relating to the Alabama Electronic Security Board.
Mr. President,
Senator Singleton.
move for third reading, be dispensed with without use of previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 11 passes. Thanks, Senator Singleton.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 30 of the calendar, House Bill number 336 by Representative Hollis regarding the Red Mountain Greenway and Recreational Area Commission. BR pending.
Move for BIR use of previous role without objection, Mr. President.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Come on. Hey.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 30 of the calendar, House Bill 336 by Representative Hollis regarding the Red Mountain Greenway and Recreational Area Commission.
Senator Singleton.
Mr. President, move for third reading be dispensed with use of previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 336 passes. Thanks, Senator Coleman. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 43 of the calendar, House Bill 378 by Representative Brown regarding brownfields. BR pending.
Mr. President, I'd like to move for the BR use of previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 43 of the calendar, House Bill 378 by Representative Brown relating to brownfields.
Mr. President, move for third reading, dispense with use of previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 378 passes. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 23 of the calendar, House Bill 244 by Representative Crawford regarding guardians ad litem. They are pending.
Senator Gavan.
Mr. President, I move the BIR using previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 23 of the calendar, House Bill number 244 by Representative Crawford relating to guardians ad litem. Committee amendment pending.
Senator Gavan.
If there's not objection, I would move adoption of the amendment using previous rule.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The committee amendment is adopted. Senator Gavan.
So at this time, unless the senator's got some questions, I would move for final passage using previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
Takes care of the gamut of bills I've got today.
35 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 244 passes. Thanks, Senator Gavan. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 45 of the calendar, House Bill number 356 by Representative Halsey relating to law enforcement training. BR pending.
Senator Weaver.
I'd like to move BR using previous rule with no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 45 of the calendar, House Bill number 356 by Representative Halsey relating to law enforcement training.
All right, Senator Weaver.
So this bill will require that APOS certified law enforcement officers will require 1 hour of training every other year related to individuals who have sensory needs or invisible disabilities every other year. So if there are no questions, I'd like to move final passage using previous rule with no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 356 passes. Thanks, Senator Weaver. Also like to recognize Representative Halsey on the floor. That is her first bill. Congratulations, Representative. All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 47 of the calendar, House Bill 344 by Representative Treadaway relating to counties of 400,000 or more. BR pending.
Senator Singleton.
Mr. President, move for the BR use of previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 47 of the calendar, House Bill 344 by Representative Treadaway relating to counties.
Mr. President,
Senator Singleton.
move for third reading, dispense with the use of previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 344 passes. Thanks, Senator Singleton. All right.
Chairman,
Yeah, Senator Coleman Madison.
if we don't have anything else, I'd like to just ask for a moment of personal privilege.
You're recognized.
Thank you, sir. I just want to say to the members of this body how proud I am of everybody, in particular leadership. You know, we've had some controversial bills that everybody kind of tensed up on, and we really didn't want to see, but it was the professionalism and the sensitivity and working together, the camaraderie that we have here in this body, majority leaders and sponsors of the bill, Senator Barfoot, Senator Gavan, and others that worked on some bills and came back and worked with minority caucus that had some issues and really worked and listened. And I'm just so happy that we've gotten to the point that we have stopped talking at each other and start talking to each other. Member of the House came up and they commented, like, y'all get so-and-so done? Say, yeah. We've worked it out. We've already talked. Everybody's explaining. We understand. You all vote for yes because we got our concerns addressed. It's a better bill. We can go back home and explain to our constituency what this bill does and does not do, and how it is fair. And this is why we supported it. So I just want to thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank leadership. Thank the members of this body. I sort of had trepidations about coming this year. I just don't want to come. I know the session is not over. The session is not, so guys, don't let the wheels roll off the wagon before let's keep it going. But thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Coleman Madison, and thank you for your leadership. All right, my understanding is, I think we're going to take one House message. Mr. Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we have one House message that we need to take.
All right. Secretary, call House Bill 13. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Message from the House, Mr. President. The House of Representatives has non-concurred in the Senate amendment to the following bill, House Bill number 13, relating to municipalities, and request a committee on conference. The Speaker of the House has appointed as conferees on the part of the House Representatives England, Lovern, and Hill. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
Mr. President,
Senator Reed.
I'd make a motion that we move to accede to the wishes of the House.
All right, would you like to use previous role?
Previous role, thank you, sir.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. The Senate goes to conference. So the conferees are Senator Barfoot, Senator Gavan, Senator Smitherman. All right, Senator Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to thank the body. I appreciate so much the words that came from the gentlelady from Jefferson, who is my friend. She and I had a funny moment today talking about her experience in this body. So what she says comes with not just got here a few minutes ago, but having observed this body for quite a number of years, and your comments were something that I take certain pride in, Senator, so I appreciate your comments. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your hard work today. We've had a good day, good budget, worked diligently on things that are important to you all. And I appreciate always the Lieutenant Governor and his efforts. Appreciate the staff and all their efforts in supporting us. We're going to be back tomorrow morning, Mr. Leader. We're going to be working on the general fund budget. So I want everybody to be aware that that's going to be our focus for tomorrow. And we appreciate those on that committee and the chairman for having worked on it already. With that, Mr. President, I'm going to ask that we leave the journal open to assign House first, and that we stand adjourned until in the morning at 9:30 a.m.
All right, you heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. President.